We shot for the stars, and we landed on a hostile alien planet. We started with a dream, and we created Atropos. This is where we truly belong. Out here, among the stars, anything is possible. And we're just getting started.
Hey man, you know this is not really Atropos. It's one of those big LED studios. It's not Atropos.
Yeah, of course, man. Yeah.
Good, just checking. Amazing stuff. I'm gonna go do our next segment, so I'll see you there.
Right, yeah, our next segment, sure. Yeah, I'll be right there.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the HouseCast. Today with me is once again Harry Kruger, but this time we're on a slightly different location, Atropos, if I'm correct.
This is it, this is where we belong.
This came from your head into reality. But yeah, Harry Kruger, please just quickly tell us about yourself and we'll get right into it.
Hi, my name is Harry Kruger. I'm a game director at Housemarque. Most recently worked on Returnal, but before that, been at Housemarque for, around 12 years now. Started as a gameplay programmer.
And you did Resogun, Nex Machinas, and
Outland, yeah.
Cool. So, getting into Returnal. Returnal, of course, was launched on April 30th of 21. This is the first HouseCast type of conversation we can have since then. What were your last-minute jitters, those feelings that right when the game was about to go live? How did you feel?
Well, when you're building up to that pivotal moment, there's a lot of anticipation, of course, a lot of excitement, but I think a lot of uncertainty as well, you know? Because you've had that laser focus for so long, you're so close to kind of finessing and finalizing, kind of like you're pouring so much love into the game. And after that, you just kind of let go of it, and it's out there. And then you just have to wait and see the reactions, you know?
How were the reactions?
And yeah, I'm happy to say that they were overwhelmingly positive. I mean, I think we did shoot for the stars with Returnal, right? It was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for us. And it was an incredibly ambitious and challenging project in many ways. And I think it was also a bit unconventional in many ways, you know, like third person, roguelike, the bullet hell elements, you know, that kind of arcade, neon flare, those sensibilities. So it wasn't like there was a clear template or a clear reference for, you know, something similar that someone else has done. And yeah, we're really happy to see that that formula really resonated with critics, with players, you know, and it was just so incredibly rewarding to just read, you know, so many comments of like player stories with the game as well. Specifically
on those player stories, you start seeing a lot early on where there's frustration, there's clearly a challenging game. Any specific player stories come to mind from those early days of Returnal?
Yeah, I think, for example, one thing that stood out to me was related to the challenge, of course. So you'd see like some tweets or some posts of people that are just on the verge of frustration, of like giving up, of throwing the controller to the screen, you know?
That is Returnal.
And then they drop the game, and then you'd see a few posts later, they're back and they've triumphed over the boss, and there's this feeling of elation with almost like tears in their eyes that I did it, you know? And I think that's it's a personal achievement as a player to overcome those kind of barriers, you know? And I think those were some really powerful moments. that I saw players experiencing with Returnal.
Somewhat similarly, the community also was supporting each other. You could go on, Reddit /r/Returnal, and there's a lot of people voicing out their frustrations, but then all the other players who've gone through that came in and said, hey, you can do it, just keep on going. And it seems like the community was fighting against this inevitable uphill battle as well.
Yeah, the pushing that Sisyphean boulder up the hill over and over, right?
Was that a reference that you were thinking in your head? A lot of Greek mythology coming in there?
Yeah, in many ways. And I think the community aspect is a product of the challenge and maybe the mystery of the game, because intentionally we wanted to make it very player focused, that it is a personal experience, a personal achievement to earn progress, to master the game's mechanics, because the game keeps shifting on you. So it's not like you can just rely on memorization and rhythm. You need to kind of just learn the fundamentals and master them over time so that you can adapt to a variety of different scenarios with the same level of comfort and style.
Internal trophies are being earned.
In many ways, yeah. And I think the mystery was another thing I want to touch upon there, because one of our key goals for Returnal was to create a haunting experience. So something that would linger in your consciousness long after the credits have rolled. And it's been really awesome to see just so many players connecting through this kind of interpretation of the story.
Yeah.
And just exploring, the symbolism, the small nuances, reading into details, having discussions about what the true mystery of Atropos really is.
Yeah.
So that's been incredibly validating to see that, and it's been really fun to follow those discussions for sure.
A lot of players have, since the game is open to multiple interpretations, a lot of people share those interpretations. And it happens that only on the forums do people really start clearly seeing the bigger picture sometimes, which is quite unique in itself as well.
And even internally, I think when we were actually developing Returnal, and this was a central mantra, that mystery is kind of like the building block we want to hold on to.
Yeah.
So I would often get asked, so, what's really the mystery of Atropos? Is this all in Celine's head? Is she really there? Did this happen? And I'm like, those are exactly the kind of questions we want players to be asking.
Right. So the answer would be yes.
So the answer would be
all of the above.
All of the above, yes. So
how about the 3.0 update? What has been the main goal for that? What are the features that really you wanted to bring to the players?
Yeah, I mean, if we think of Returnal as a game that was all about creating memorable player stories, I think with 3.0 it's about connecting those player stories, and having that sense of community, that sense of interacting with other players both directly and indirectly. I mean, even in the base game we did have, of course, the ghosts that you interacted with, and those are actually tracking like the deaths of other players, right?
So some social elements were built in.
The social connectivity, it's like, the parallel timelines of other Celines that have come and gone through Atropos, and just creating those unique stories and then connecting them. And now with the multiplayer, of course, with the co-op, we can just create a more intimate kind of sharing of that common experience with players as well.
Playing the whole campaign together with a buddy, it's quite unique. It's something that is, of course, well, it's different stories, like you said. You're not as alone anymore.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting how that affects also the perceived challenge as well.
Yeah.
Because, hey, when you're sharing the challenge among like two players, it becomes more manageable to overcome certain obstacles.
Right. So this is the easy mode that we were talking about.
Not exactly, but yeah, I think to some extent it can be seen as a way to alleviate some of these pressure points.
A different experience.
Yeah. So when you do feel like maybe you're stuck and you cannot overcome that certain boss or that obstacle, maybe trying co-op is a great way to try some alternative approach there as well,
And there's something else in the 3.0 update as well.
Yes, the Tower of Sisyphus.
And that's basically an endless mode, or?
Yeah, I think that's the best way to describe it, yeah. So if Returnal was kind of an ode to, our arcade heritage and bringing those kind of values to like a third-person package, I think the Tower of Sisyphus is about taking that more to the endless formula that, we've explored with games like Super Stardust and Resogun in the past as well, where the primary goal is to see, of course, how high you can get in the tower, like what floor you can reach, and of course how big score you can get. So we have the traditional multiplier, there's like layers to kind of maintaining that and kind of getting score bonuses, keeping up the momentum, and it is endless. I mean, there are certain narrative beats, there's new narrative content to be explored as well to enrich the mystery of Atropos and Celine. But it is, once again, very gameplay focused and quite intense, actually.
And that's kind of taking the third-person shooter back to our arcade roots again, in a way. And this is a topic I wanted to discuss with you a little bit since, as the game director, that is a role that you've undertaken, from Nex Machina now coming to Returnal is quite a transition. How do you see that from this quote-unquote indie into this AAA space? What have been the challenges during that journey?
Yeah, it's an interesting journey to reflect on for sure. So I did start out as a gameplay programmer, and I still think through that perspective many times. And even with Nex Machina, which was a much smaller game, I was still able to directly contribute to the game through code, right? So helped a lot with the controls, with like, fine-tuning some enemies, some bosses. I remember just a few days before the game shipped, I used to stay up until really late, just coding the final super boss of the game, the titular Nex Machina.
Getting all those details down.
And I would close my eyes and to sleep, and I would just see like bullets flying in front of me. That's how deep I was with that.
The patterns got real, yeah.
Yeah, but that was still kind of like a scope where it was just on the limit, where I could still code.
It's about 15 people.
And, yeah, about 15 people at its most. But now with Returnal, I think just the scope and the ambition is so much larger. Like, you cannot even keep the full game in your head, at any time.
Well, I mean, not all these details.
Exactly, let alone be able to be involved with every single detail. I mean, it's just, an impossible amount of work. And I think that's where, like before, it was all about me jumping in and doing the things I wanted, as a creator. Now, I think it's shifted much more to communicating that vision, finding ways to inspire the team. And of course, I've been super fortunate to work with an amazing team that we've been able to create a lot of this really amazing stuff together, So the transition has actually had its challenges, but it has, all things considered, been fairly, smooth. And yeah, and I think we are quite proud of the end result as well,
Yeah, and this is a big step, going
Absolutely.
from the side-scrolling or top-down games into third-person with these type of production values. It, of course, comes with the challenges, but I think now, with Returnal, we're able to establish a new plateau. This is a great place to build on. But talking specifically about Returnal, the vision, you had so many references and ideas in your mind. I just want to kind of bring them to the physical space here. I have one of the Junji Ito comic books here. Can you tell us a bit about, for example, this, art form? What was it about this that gave you those insights into what Atropos and what are the challenges that you wanted to create here?
Yeah, I think there's been a pretty broad variety of influences. And sometimes it's really hard to quantify, it can be something you pick up just from listening to a piece of music, or you just see something on the street, or you watch a movie. And it doesn't have to be like, an atmospheric horror movie or anything like that. It could be, an action movie or even a comedy. And there just can be one moment there that just really speaks to you. And you don't even know why exactly, but it just feels interesting. So you hold on to that. And then you kind of just work on it. And before you know, you've collected a lot of these notes and reference boards and ideas that are kind of, they're starting to form a bit of a pattern in a way, and then you start identifying some themes. And that was kind of like, in a way, the creative process. It was quite organic. But yeah, definitely a lot of influences from different media. I mean, the work of Junji Ito, of course, in terms of cosmic horror and, you know, capturing that state of mind when you're faced with the unknown. I think that was really powerful. And of course, the imagery is quite vivid that he portrays as well.
Lovecraft, of course, being...
Lovecraft, cosmic horror, absolutely a massive inspiration. Just once again, the most primal fear, the fear of the unknown, and tapping into the psychological layers as well. So, you know, it's like you're looking into the abyss, but the abyss is also looking into you.
Steering right back. What about Lynch? You know, this is clearly something that, you know, expect the unexpected, if you will.
Yeah, I think Lynch had a really profound influence on me as well. So I think it's really difficult to verbalize, but I think it's capturing that kind of dreamlike ambience where, you know, the weird becomes the norm in a way. You're expecting the unexpected, and it kind of gave me the confidence to commit to certain surreal ideas or some things that were a bit more out there, and just feel like, yeah, well, this can work, you know? And sometimes it's just like committing to those ideas and putting them all together that creates an ambience of their own, you know? Because dreams, they're not really easy to break up and quantify. Well, they're kind of disconnected, they're disorienting at times. And I think that was one of the main creative drives we had for Returnal as well. Like with the world changing every time after your death, you know, it's shuffling around. You have fragments of like your past coming through. Are they from the past? Are they premonitions? Are they even your own memories? Or is the planet kind of like toying with you? So it creates this really nightmarish ambience where you can't fully trust everything that you're experiencing. But it creates a feeling, and I think that's the most profound thing, that you're chasing the intangible, you're chasing an emotion, you know? So it's about creating a certain feeling in the players when they experience something, and that was maybe the main approach that we used for a lot of our narrative moments, you know? So it's like, it wasn't like, hey, how does this necessarily fit in with something else? Like, what does this make the player feel? Does it make them feel you know, fear or
the
elation?
Astronaut, for example.
Exactly.
It's just there, and then, you know, you get used to it sometimes if you play a lot, but the first couple of times when you see, especially in the, you know, the gameplay sequences, you see the astronaut somewhere, I got scared. I didn't know what to expect.
Yeah, I think it can create that unsettling feeling, right? That you're being watched. That maybe you're being judged to some degree, or
visual
followed.
Perspective as well. An artist named Beksinski has been a real big part of influencing the look, you know, this kind of daunting atmosphere. So at least you have some visual entities to kind of show people when creating this.
Yeah, Beksinski was definitely a big influence for the kind of creepy, you know, corroded, brutalist kind of architecture. And I think Blame is actually worth mentioning here as well as a reference.
I didn't have that book with me,
but another one that plays with that brutalist architecture, you know, those clean lines, that really oppressive feeling of scale and grandeur. So a lot of different influences that came together.
Tying into the gameplay, which is usually at the core, the very center of a Housemarque game, it's still a gameplay-centric game. It's a bullet hell game. Was that something you could see as a beautiful contrast of the dark and the light, kind of bullet ballet, if you will, or was that something that was maybe too far out? It wasn't really realistic. So how do you feel about that?
Yeah, well, I think in many ways we did approach Returnal in an unapologetically video gaming way.
Yeah.
So if something works, if it creates like interesting gameplay, then we just committed to it, and then we made it work visually as well. And I think this kind of dark world, bright action approach that we've taken with Returnal, it is quite distinctive. And looking at the bullet patterns and those elaborate kind of spirals and that neon flare, I think there's a certain unique kind of beauty that creates. Its own aesthetic in a way.
It's a mesmerizing thing, and it does get you into the zone because you're following the smooth movements while you're dodging. So it's also a part of the zen that a lot of our games go for.
The gameplay creates a certain aesthetic in a way.
Yeah, and that's also something that sticks with you. Those patterns haunt you, like you said, in your dreams sometimes. But hey, with Returnal now, you've created this new plateau, a new regular for Housemarque. I would like to say that this is the evolution of the arcade. You know, arcade from our side has been dead, but where do we take it now? Where do you see the challenges of future Housemarque games looking forward?
Oh man, that's a big one. I mean, yeah, if the arcade is dead, then long live the arcade, I guess. But that was one of our goals, to bring those creative sensibilities to Returnal, of course, in this more modernized, let's say, AAA package, as you put it. And yeah, for me, it's not about just, this isn't a nostalgia trip. This is about identifying the timeless gameplay values that define our medium and just, you know, crystallizing those and giving them a form that is really enticing and appealing for modern audiences as well. And because, you know, we're an interactive medium and there's no substitute for good gameplay. And that is always going to be our main focus. Gameplay is king, right? And thinking about the future, I mean, as we said before, like, you know, the sky isn't even the limit. Like, we're thinking beyond that. But now I think, yeah, this has been a great opportunity to reflect on our trajectory, not just for the last couple of years, but for the last 10 years or so, like this chapter of Housemarque defining this arcade identity. And Returnal definitely heralds the beginning of a brave new chapter for us. And I look forward to continuing that trajectory to the stars and beyond.
I think that's really well put. Thank you so much, Harry Kruger, for giving us these insights and for honestly, you know, steering the whole project to the place where we can sit here now on Atropos, looking at the details of the world building that you and the wonderful team have created. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of HouseCast, and thank you so much, Harry Kruger, for being here. And I guess we'll see everybody on Atropos.
Thanks, Miguel, and thanks, everyone. See you on Atropos.